For my multimedia major project, I developed the Roswell Ride, which is a video game that is made up of lots of different parts. In this 6-minute video, I wanted to show you the advanced and tricky stuff that is hard to show in a 2-dimensional portfolio. 3D modeling is one of the biggest parts of my production, as I had to develop my skills in 3D software over the course of this project, getting really good at building complex and advanced geometry. In terms of Blender, my portfolio showed a problem that I had with texturing exports into Unity. This issue is hard to fully break down on paper, so let me show you the process of taking materials from Blender into Unity. The core issue in a simple matter is that a .filmbox file is unable to take textures from Blender that have procedural texturing nodes, such as noise textures and color ramps. This results in the files that I export having missing or malformed textures. The fix to this issue was not applying the textures in Blender, instead apply them in Unity with an export.png of the texture. This means I had to learn how to bake, which in terms of what I'm doing means creating this end product. To create this product, I created a plane in Blender, applied the Blender texture to it, and then switched to the render engine, Cycles, and applied an image texture node. On the image texture node, I then get the ability to bake my UV map with the applied texture onto the picture. This texture would then be applied in Unity. In the background, the creation of my hair has been shown, but I haven't explained it yet. The creation process involved the creation of a Bezier circle and a NURBS path. On the NURBS path, I applied the bevel function and used the circle as my reference shape. This means that the circle would extrude along the path. After manipulating the circle, I would get strands of hair that I could manipulate onto the person. Here you can see all of the complex 3D models, their wireframe views, and how I used a combination of different modeling and animating skills to create the models that I would then bring into my game engine, Unity. Importing my models into Unity took some time for me to work out, but once I did, I had to make sure that I could hook up smooth and detailed animations to improve the quality of the game. Hooking up my animations in Unity involved multiple different animation assets. First, I would get my exported object, then create an animated controller. This is what allows Unity to interact with the multiple animations I made in Blender's action editor. First, I added all the animations which come with my FBX, and then I added the transitions. In these transitions, I created triggers which allow my code to say, play this. Furthermore, inside of these animations, I could add a special thing called animation triggers, which allow me to trigger a function inside of code. Remember this, as I'll link back to it later. As the main part of the Roswell Ride is that it's a game, I need to talk about the programming and coding skills I learned throughout the project. First of all, Unity code is written in C#. I learned a lot about the syntax of that language through tutorials and with some past experience in computing technologies in Year 10. Unity as a game engine has a lot of systems in place that I could tap into and customize, such as a physics engine and hitboxes. This meant I could edit the way the system worked to make it work well for my game. This is the player. The thing about the player is that on the Z-axis, the direction in which you move, the player actually does not move. Instead, the map moves around the player using a script called world move, which I figured would prevent a lot of possible future bugs. Behind the player stays a steel kill brick, which deletes everything that touches it. This is made to prevent lag, thus helping me optimize the game's performance. The player has a script that allows left and right movement through these lines of code. To be upfront, I wrote this code myself, but I did use ChatGPT to debug it and mostly fix the syntax errors that I had. Slight little errors that made my code not work. I had to resort to this because I'm not used to coding in C#. Although I do have some experience, I'm way more used to GDScript, which is used in Godot. However, as we know, Godot was not an option. The player shooting script asks if your ammo is higher than 1, then plays the animation. This animation has an animation trigger, remember, which activates a function in another script. This script momentarily activates a large hitbox which activates a destroy script for any object that has that script, thus an enemy. For the enemies, their behavior is split into multiple scripts, but first, how are they spawned? The course is riddled with small hitboxes that constantly ask, is there a player touching me? When this is confirmed, the hitbox spawns the chosen enemy at a point behind the player. This enemy has the commands, move here, then move here, which is how they get into position with this script. Afterwards, with slight variations on the scripts, the enemies would wait for a certain condition to be met, such as a random time or a fixed one. Once this condition is met, then the fire function would be called, in a similar fashion to the player. I enjoyed the programming and coding parts of the game, and I was able to get the game to operate as I intended, but this did take a lot of time and was very difficult. Building the game is how you move the game from being in the Unity editor to a .exe file that anyone can access. Around 4 days before the project was due, I decided to troubleshoot my game on other computers. Everything went smoothly, except for the fact that I lied and it didn't. You see, I had around 7 videos in my project and only a few of them worked. This left me confused. Over the course of bug fixing, I found out that there were multiple issues instead of one plaguing these few videos. At first I attempted to transcode them, which is how Unity moves them into a codec that it can understand. However, that only worked for some of the videos. Applying my multimedia knowledge, I also changed the video's codec into ones that were smaller and easy to understand. However, this only worked for some of my videos as well. The trailer scene was still not working. To fix the trailer, I re-imported it multiple times, eventually working on my 5th attempt. This process tested my knowledge of codecs and how video files work. I'm glad I had this issue early, as if I had had it later, then half my project would have broken on the due date. Through using a combination of different multimedia skills and techniques, I am confident that my game is an enjoyable experience, and am proud of what I have been able to create. Thanks for marking my project. It's been a genuine pleasure, occasionally, to make.